Alright, here we go. Dax and I are going to show you how we drilled the 70 blocks for the Pac 129 Scouts. First, Dax is going to put on his safety glasses. And when you're going through the workshop, we drilled everybody's block exactly the same way. And how we drilled them is we drilled the back wheels so they both had a 3-degree angle. It's called cant on either side, and that's so that when it rides on the track, it only rides down the little bitty edge of the wheel. This makes a lot faster car, a lot less friction on the wheel surface. One wheel is the steering wheel. It gets drilled straight, and then we bend that axle. You'll see that later. And the other wheel doesn't ever even touch the track. So when it's running down, it doesn't touch the track. All it'll do is sit there and actually spin, and it doesn't touch the track at all. That way we have 3 wheels on the track. That's one less wheel to be able to spin up and get moving. Makes your car a lot faster. So that wheel will drill higher and straight so it doesn't ever touch the track. Here's how we do it. So we have a fixture that I made. We took everybody's car, me, Dax, laid them out, drew lines across them for the rear axle, front axle line, put the little spots where we're going to drill on the sides. One's a dominant front wheel, DFW, that's the steering wheel, and the other one is the lifted wheel. So we'll show you how we drilled this. We put it in my fixture. And what this fixture does is it allows me to drill the back 2 wheels exactly opposite of each other at the exact same degree, so they're both, so that your car is perfectly aligned. So we put it in the fixture, tighten it down. Dax, get that one, so it doesn't move around at all, and that's the key. So how this system works is I don't use the block as being perfectly square. What I use as being perfectly square is my steel block here that I know is machined perfectly square. So what we're going to drill first is the rear wheels, the rear axle holes. So what I do is, if I were to just lay it here down flat and then drill it right there, that'll be a perfectly straight hole, but I don't want it to be straight. I want it to be at an angle, actually at 3 degrees. So I have a pin in here that goes in a slot. So this pin's sitting in the slot, and when I turn it over now, it's resting on that pin. I know you can't see it, but it's lifted this block up at an angle, exactly 3 degrees. So now this, when I drill into it, it's going to go downward at a 3-degree angle. So what I do is I have this stop in the back. You see it here, I'm moving it. I'm going to use this stop to drill both rear axles. So I'm going to move this stop until I'm on my mark here. So the mark is right about there. And I lock down the back stop. Once I do that, I can move this off of it. Once again, I'm on that pin. I'm at 3 degrees. I'll come back to the stop, and then we'll have Dax drill this axle hole. So I'm drilling at 3 degrees at an angle. Dax is going to show us how to drill, nice and smooth, nice and steady, about halfway he pulls up to clear all the shavings. Now he'll go all the way back down. Oh, good job, Dax. He turns it off. Alright, now we're going to drill the opposite rear. So we have one of them done. I'm going to pull that pin out. I'm going to put the pin on the other side and flip it all over. Now I didn't move the stop or move anything, so this is drilling exactly across from it at exactly the same angle that I had on that side. So now Dax is going to drill again. Alright, that finishes up the second hole. Bring it up, we'll turn it off. Now I'm going to pull that pin out, so I'm not doing cant anymore. So I've drilled now both rear holes, both at a 3-degree angle, and they're exactly across from each other for perfect alignment. Next hole I'm going to drill, I pulled the pin out to make it flat, so this hole is going to go perfectly straight in. And I'm going to move my guide, and I'm going to put it on that X, which is actually an 1/8 inch up from the bottom. And we're going to drill the straight dominant front wheel hole, or the steering wheel hole. I'll hold it, Dax will drill. Alright, So that's the straight hole, the dominant front wheel hole. I'm going to flip it over now. This is the lifted hole. This is that wheel that you saw spinning and spinning. So I want it higher. So if I were to drill it right there, it'll be exactly the same height as the one across from it, which is the steering hole. We don't want that. We want it a little bit higher. So I'm going to move my my fence over here a little bit lower. My guide, yes, thanks, Dax. And we're going to drill it. So this wheel's drilled a little bit higher than the last one, and that's so it doesn't ever touch the track. So we turn it off, and Dax is we're gonna loosen this up and take these screws out. Yep, and go ahead, take that one out. Nope, you got it. Go ahead and turn it up. Yep. So we just drilled one Cub Scout block. Actually, this is an open class block. So we drilled the 4 holes. Rear, both of those are canted at 3 degrees, both fronts, and one of them is lifted. So what I do next, before you guys ever get them, is I take a pair of locking pliers with an old axle in it. I go in each of the holes and make sure that when you get the car, I know that your axle will fit in the hole and go in kind of snugly. We don't want it real loose. If it's really loose, you can always put a drop of water in it. That'll tighten it up. You do that to each one. And then that one's ready to go. There's actually a test that I run through each one of them. I'll put the wheels in it real quick. I just take a good set of wheels, a good set of axles. I'll put it in the car. Thanks, Dax. And the test that I would do is I would look at this car, I would run it on a smooth, go ahead, Dax, you can run it back and forth. And I would look for the rear axles to make sure that they stay out when I move forward and backwards. That tells me it has perfect alignment. And you can't see it, but I can see it. I know that both of these axles are at 3-degree angle. I know they both stay out so they're not towed in or towed out. And that's the way that you guys get your blocks, and that's what the 4 holes in your car are drilled with. Thanks, we'll try to do some more videos shortly.